I'm Carnes, and this is another edition of Living Consciously. Today I'm calling this program A Healthy Mind. A healthy mind is a very important tool for navigating this life in a way that keeps us happy, physically healthy, looking forward cheerfully, but also open to assist in the changes that we need to make together as a people. Because our mind needs to be calm and happy in order to be creative. A relaxed mind is a creative mind. Remember the wise words of Paul from Christian scriptures when he said, "Think on these things, the good, the true, and the beautiful." Wonderful advice. But not so easy to do when the mind is troubled. You know, in the last few days when we're filming this, we have had a shared experience of horror at a terrible massacre in Las Vegas, and something that's becoming all too common in our culture. And the tendency of a mind is to attribute meaning to it. Well, it doesn't have any meaning in and of itself, but it most certainly has a cause. But we're not ever going to get to cause and therefore to solution if we're afraid. So an unhealthy mind is full of fear. And all of us experience fear from time to time, but if it's a chronic condition, we need to do something about it. Now, right now, you know, as a minister, I get phone calls from people who want to know how to think about this horrible thing that's happened and what's happening to humanity and what's going on in our country and all that. And, you know, how to move the focus from the problem back into a sense of stability, balance, peace, so that you can actually think clearly about it. That's really the goal. Now, somebody might say, well, sit and meditate. I know how difficult that is when the mind is going off, like da 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 da. So one of the things to do, go back to Paul, think on these things, the good, the true, and the beautiful, is to fill the mind with gratitude. Now, we've talked about gratitude lists before, and it's a really good daily practice. It's also a tremendously healing practice. There's great power in gratitude, and I want to talk about why that is so this morning. That's for the next little bit. When our mind is filled with anything, it pushes out the very opposite. So, in other words, when your mind is full of fear, it takes up all the space in your awareness, and you have to take conscious steps to shift the balance. Gratitude will do that. So we begin to be grateful for the body, the chair we're sitting in, or the bed we're in, and the colors around us, a cool drink of water. Whatever it is, we begin to fill our mind with thoughts of how wonderful life actually is, and how grateful we are to have this life that we're living. And what happens is, you know, the mind is like an open field or a container, if you will. It really doesn't have any boundaries to it, but as a personal experience of awareness, it feels like it's a container. And what's in it dictates how we behave, what our next move is, how we interact with other people, what we expect, right? And it creates attendant emotions that have a very powerful effect on the physical body. So it's paramount that you and I get a handle on our mind and keep it healthy. So in this container, there's this self. You know, I was talking to some people the other night, and last Sunday actually it was, and I was saying, you know, you really should think about this. When you say to yourself, I'll use my name, I'll say, Carol, get up and go walk. Well, who's doing that? Who's talking to who? Okay, so there is an awareness of being that's behind all of the actions of doing. And that awareness of being, when it is focused on something, it takes over. In other words, gratitude is a little tool for filling the mind with such positive thoughts that all of the negativity is pushed out. There's no room for it at the end, so to speak, right? And that's where that image of a container comes in. You're just filling your mind with such wonderful ideas that anything unlike it can't live in the same space. Your mind cannot hold more than one thought at a time. So that's the purpose of it, and it's very, very powerful. Gratitude helps us to not take anything for granted. I made up a little sentence today that I put on Facebook, and it says, if we take nothing for granted, we take care of everything. You see, if we are grateful for something, that implies that we also have some love and respect for it, that it's something we cherish to a certain degree, and it's something we want to make sure lasts and perhaps reproduces, expands, and is available to everybody else. You see, that's what gratitude does. It creates in us a tendency to want to be the solution rather than the problem. Doesn't that make sense? Well, that which you're grateful for, that which you are thankful about, you tend to take care of. So gratitude as a mental state is very healthy. And it's not Pollyanna-ish ostrich head in the sand. And a lot of people get mixed up about this. They think thinking positively means you just deny that anything is a problem. No, thinking positively means it helps you to see through the problem, to the cause, and attend to the cause. And then that's the whole secret of spiritualized thinking. It gets us beyond the psychological tendency to try to ascribe meaning to something that doesn't have any meaning, except to the person who's doing it, perhaps. But get to the cause. What is the cause of so much violence in our world? Well, we'll talk about that in the second half. But let's talk about, for example, the life we're living. Are we grateful for it? We don't know what the alternative would be. If you hadn't gotten born and come into this form and grown into this adult expressive being, what would you be? We don't know. So, but it's pretty cool, isn't it, to have a body and a voice and vision and hearing and all the things that go along with being human, and a mind that can think. So let's be grateful for ourselves. That's the first thing to be grateful for. I am grateful that I am who I am. I'm grateful that I'm alive and well, and I'm aware. Now this is where that which we're grateful for we tend to take care of comes in. We are aware that this is very temporary. We're not here that long, at least not in this form. We may be somewhere else. But we need to remember nothing lasts forever. And this is a piece of perception that the Buddhists are very, very adept at, is celebrating the temporary. And that means we realize that wherever we are, in whatever moment, with whomever we are, it's a very precious moment because nothing lasts forever. It'll all be gone soon, including our own body. But there's something allowing it to appear as form. There's something that allows us to be aware of ourselves. The one that says, Carol, get up and go walking, which I've been doing lately. I've been walking in the morning and adding a few minutes every day, so I'm almost up to an hour. And I really love it. And it's my way of honoring my body, which I'm sure has felt rather neglected through the winter. But what I want us to look at in that context is the temporariness of it, the perfection of it, the miracle of it, and how wonderful it is to have this awareness of being and to know that it is very, very much worth celebrating. And so we start to take care of the things around us. And then one of the ways we look at nature is also a healthy way of seeing things. It may sound egocentric, but it isn't. But nature is here for us. It supports us. Now I want you to think about this. Food grows on trees. You could live on apples and oranges and grapes and all the food lives on trees. It grows on trees. Isn't that amazing? And the oceans are full of potential sources of protein. Should we partake of them? The air is for breathing. The water is ever flowing, the sunlight never stops. I mean, you can make quite a case for how nature is here for us. And when we feel that gratitude, we tend to take care of it, right? That's where humanity is right now, is waking up to what they could be losing by not attending to nature in the right way. And if we start making a gratitude list about nature itself, we'll push out those thoughts that said, it doesn't matter. I won't be here that long anyway. No, we want nature to be here forever, right? We want it to last for future generations. So a healthy mind thinks about things like this. And it sees beauty in things. It sees beauty in everything. I noticed lately in our neighborhood, there's a lot of monarch butterflies. You know, when I was a kid, butterflies were everywhere. You don't see so many of them anymore. But for some reason right now, there's a lot of them. And it's just such a wonderful thing to stop whatever I'm doing and just look at that miraculous little colorful gossamer thing flying around. I mean, flying. It's pretty incredible. And it's a part of my gratitude list are the little beings beside humanity that are in nature that remind us of the something that's behind everything, something wonderful. So the gratitude is really the only reasonable response to life when you think about it. And the ancients referred to the body as a temple. And this is what they were getting at, is to see the body as something to cherish, something miraculous, something beautiful, something temporary, and something that ought to have our love and respect. And that wouldn't it, dictate our behaviors towards it? Of course it would. So it would seem to naturally extend to the health and well-being of other people. If we are respectful of our own body, our own life, our own individuality, we see the miracle of being able to think for ourselves, express ourselves, and have relationships with people and things. Why wouldn't we honor and respect and cherish that in other people? And then we would make sure that our votes, our behaviors, our choices are in support of the individuality of other people and done with respect. That's why it's all tied together. You see, you can see it. It's like a weaving. We're weaving a spiritual basket here, if you will. I love that idea of weaving. Okay, we're coming up on break time. And so take a little moment and relax and listen to these sponsors and see what they have for you. And come right back, because we will be.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or Buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
And we're back. Welcome everybody to Living Consciously. Well, if you just tuned in, we've been talking about a healthy mind today and how important it is to fill our mind with the good, the true, and the beautiful. Not to deny what's going on in the world, but to help us be better citizens of the world, if you will. You see, a spiritualized mind is a mind that's open and creative. And when I say spiritualized, I mean aware of the beauty, individuality, and miracle of life itself, and to be grateful for everything. And when that which we do not take for granted, or let's say that which we're grateful for, we tend to take care of. And so we ended the first half talking about how if we love and honor and respect ourselves as individual expressions of something amazing, something wonderful, something invisible, but present nonetheless, we're going to see that in other people. You know, that's the beginning of world peace. It's the beginning of communication. It's the only way you can have an honest communication with anybody is to honor and respect them for the individuals that they are, but knowing we have a common source. That the wonderful one something that's being all is being everybody and everything, including nature. So it's all together. We're weaving a basket of awareness, if you will. There's nothing is separate from anything else. And so we talked a lot about gratitude being one way to push out the dark. Now, when you think about being thankful and grateful, it feels light. It feels like light, doesn't it? And when you think about fear and anger and hatred, it feels dark. So the light pushes out the dark as surely as a candle entering a dark room will light it up, right? Okay, so the gratitude keeps our mind out of fear and keeps us in a healthy mode of thankfulness. Now, one more point I want to make about this is that, ready? There's nobody to thank. Now, in the sense, there's no God up there that requires our thanks. There's something that's expressing as the universe and everything in it. And it seems to be, it's just its way. It can't help itself, like the Big Bang. Whoosh! It just can't help it. Intelligence must be revealed. It must make something out of itself. And so it does, and it keeps doing it all the time. And does it by means of what it creates, by means of you and me. We are the way Spirit or God expresses itself as individualized consciousness, you see. So rather than remaining one cosmic sea, it becomes the bubbles. Isn't that a wonderful thing to think about? So God doesn't require that you thank it, because it's not a him or a her. It's not a being. It is aliveness, intelligence, pure love. Hard to imagine, I know, without putting a form on it. That's why we did it. But try. Give yourself a little exercise in abstract thinking. And try not to think of God as a form, because it kind of really limits your experience of it. Okay. Now, there's nothing to thank, not outside of ourselves, but there are healing properties in thankfulness, in gratitude. So today, as you go out in the world and I go out, we're going to have literally hundreds, if not 1,000 or more, moments and opportunities, rather, to be thankful. Maybe you get a parking place up front and it's raining and, oh, I'm so thankful I don't have to walk in, Little things. Someone picks up the lunch check. You find the perfect dress to wear to the party, or the perfect pair of shoes, or you get a new job, or someone compliments you, or you get a little raise, or any little thing or big thing. There's always something to be grateful for. And if we start expressing it, even just in the car to ourselves, like, oh, I'm so grateful for that, or I'll thank you for that. And you don't have to be thanking anybody, you're just saying thank you to life. The mind begins to feel more alive. You feel more connected to life. You get why that you can feel it, can't you? That if you're thankful for stuff, you're connected, right? So be thankful for the people in the world. Now, when we're going through something like we've been going through lately with this horrendous event in Las Vegas, people want to know how to assimilate that into the spiritual teaching. And we try desperately to find meaning in it. The first thing we have to do is to be grateful that there's a way to be different in the world than what we are witnessing. And that there's a way for us to think through it and to get at the cause of it. And it means we don't have to be afraid of it. There's no meaning for someone to mow down other human beings. I don't even find it there's a meaning in war, frankly. But there's a cause for it. There's a belief behind it. There's an emotion. There's a terrible disconnect from life. That person has just disconnected, whether it's through drugs or trauma or unresolved childhood conflicts. There's a disconnect. There's no longer love and respect for the self, and therefore there's none for the other. And so we go back and back and back to the very layered and complex issues of what's in the human mind. Now, what's in us collectively? You see, we do not want to become collectively in despair. We want to become collectively ready to initiate creative changes on every level that give all people a sense of self-worth. Is that possible? Of course it is. Because, well, when we have a worldview that we all share, such as certain religious ideas, people act accordingly. Now, I know this is controversial. I don't care. But people have started all kinds of wars in the name of God. They'll kill for Jesus. I mean, come on. And a lot of what this is, and this is a whole other thing. I might even write a book about this because it needs to be said. What we're looking at and what we saw in Las Vegas was rampant masculinity, patriarchy, and a bias against the feminine in a violent expression of its own lack of wholeness. Okay, I need to roll my sleeves up. I'm not going to do this today. I don't have enough time. But I do believe that violence comes from a disconnect to the whole self. And one of the problems in our culture, our world, is a collective disconnect from the feminine aspect of God. And that means the feminine aspect of ourselves. And so everything is set up as if the feminine were not important. And there's no respect for her. Just look how women are treated. And anything else that's feminine. I wrote about this the other day. Let me just read a part of this. It says, rampant masculinity, patriarchy, and bias against the feminine leads to violence against nature, dominance, violence against children, which are extensions of women, and men who seem to display feminine attributes, and other men who are somewhat in touch with their true nature, perhaps they're artists or musicians or just deep thinkers. They're just as much a target as females. Men who are not gun-toting conquerors are at risk in this world. But it is the denying males themselves who are the most vulnerable, just as that man who did what he did in Vegas was feeling very vulnerable, I'm sure, and this is how he acted it out. They risk a loss of the soul. Now, I don't mean you can lose your soul, but you can certainly lose your connection to it and what the soul wants. What does the soul want? It wants to love, to unite with, to bless, and to prosper, and to create, and to celebrate. Okay? So there's nothing so terrible as that. And it can be observed in young men returning from combat. They cannot give any meaning to the slaughter they have seen, because there isn't any meaning, but there's a cause. You know, I was talking to someone the other day. We were having a little heated debate about this, but I say the last war that actually had meaning was World War II. And after that, it was mostly about politics and territory and oil and some other controversial subjects. So when these young men come back, they have to make up reasons why they did what they did or saw what they saw. And usually they're not valid, but it makes sense to them. So they either become overly flag-waving keepers of the myth of masculinity, or they turn against themselves or society. And there's no meaning in killing other people, but there is a cause, and it lies in the belief system, and I believe religion is the culprit. So there you have it. That's me in a nutshell. I'm on my soapbox today, but this is deeply personal to each one of us. You can find out more about this if you come on Sunday morning at 10:30 to the community center where we have our Sunday morning lessons. I do a talk, something like this. And we do one thing in the beginning that's very important is we sit in meditation for 10, 15 minutes, absolute silence, perfect. Everybody needs it. You probably aren't getting it very many other places in your life. And after I do my talk, we have a little dialogue if people want to talk about it. So it's a really nice, full morning, but low-key. There's no up and downs and loud music. It's just very respectful of you and your time. I'd love to see you there. Our website is www, you see it on the screen, mvcsl.org, Center for Spiritual Living, Mesilla Valley. We'd love for you to make a donation to us. We rely on donations pretty much. We're a nonprofit. We're a 501(c)(3). And it's important to us that we stay here on the air, stay alive in the community. We think we're bringing a good source to the community. You can also get on my website, carolcarnes.com. You can communicate with me by my personal email, which is ccarnes7@gmail.com. And I will respond to you. I'll answer you. So ask me questions, whatever. I also write a column for the Bulletin once a month. At the third Friday of the month, you can see it in there. Now, one more thing. Tell your friends to watch me on YouTube because people are responding to these messages. They're very glad to have them in their life, and I'm sure your friends will be too. So that's it. See you next time. Thanks for joining us today, and keep your mind healthy.